Well, it's amazing to me. Thank you, England. But I think part of the reason is that it's not really only about Robert Moses. It's about political power, how you get political power. What is political power? How can it shape our lives? Moses was interesting to me because he was never elected to anything. We live in America in a democracy where power is supposed to come from the ballot box, from elections. Here's a man who was never elected to anything. He had more power than anyone who was, more than any mayor, more than any governor, more than any mayor and governor combined. And he held this power for 44 years, almost half a century, and he shaped New York with it. So I set out to do, how did he get it?
Can we talk a little about biography? I mean, one of the dangers of biography, and particularly of the thorough biographical style of which you're the master, perhaps it puts too much weight on the individuals, too much weight on Moses as shaping New York,
right? Not
enough on historical forces, motor cars, the ability to build tall buildings, whatever the architectural trend was. Is that a danger with the big biography?
Well, I think it's a danger. I think in my particular case, the danger is mitigated because I'm not interested in writing, I never thought of writing a biography just to write the life of a famous man. I never had the slightest interest in doing that. I started The Power Broker because, as I think I mentioned, no one seemed to know where this man got his power. So it started, on my part, as an examination of political power. Where did he get it? How did he create this power outside the electoral process? And what did he do with this power? So it's a study of power. That's why I call it The Power Broker. With Johnson, what attracted me to Johnson was the same thing. It was his Senate years more than the presidential years.
And he continues his informal Texas style, mingling with the welcoming crowds.
I said, my God, he did something no one else has ever done. He made the Senate work. If I can figure out how he got the power to do that and explain it to people, which is, you've got to figure it out and then you got to explain it, then that really is something you feel you're adding to people's understanding of political power that they should understand.
If you don't know what you want to do with power,
yes,
you're not really going to be very useful, are you? And if you don't have the ability to work the system,
yes,
you're not going to be very useful. You need both of those, do you or not?
You know, Johnson is really very interesting. He has to give this speech for Congress 3 days after Kennedy is assassinated. His speech writers are gathered around a table. He comes down to see what they're turning out. They say, well, whatever we do, don't touch civil rights. Don't mention civil rights. The Southerners control Congress. They're going to stop all your legislation. Don't antagonize them. It's a noble cause, but it's a lost cause. You know what Johnson says to them? Well, what the hell's the presidency for then? And in his speech, he says, my first priority is to pass a civil rights bill.
Now, I wonder whether the techniques used by Johnson, skullduggery might call some of it, the techniques used by Johnson, whether they created a disenchantment with politics, though. Today the word is, it's authenticity we want in our politicians. I wonder whether the cynical manipulation of people like Johnson have created the era we're now in.
Yes, the answer to your question is, he created something called the credibility gap. I mean, Vietnam, everyone realized no one could believe what he said. And you know, now when I hear the telephone tapes, I hear him telling his advisors, I've decided to send 75,000 men to Vietnam, an army into the jungles. He says, but let's say the policy hasn't changed. Remember that in everything you'd say, we haven't changed our policy. But everyone knew he had changed his policy. For years he would say, I see the light, we are winning. Everyone knew we weren't winning. So the disenchantment with the American presidency, with, in your words, not believing what the president tells us, that really started with Lyndon Johnson.
Before Watergate, can we think of it as starting with Watergate?
Oh, very good. People say it started with Watergate. They don't remember it started before Watergate. It started with Vietnam.
So you're almost 80 years old, and you've said if anything should happen to you, that mean you can't finish this 5th volume. You don't want anyone else to finish it or to take the work and complete it. Why is that?
Well, I want everything, you know, that I've done under my name to be something that I did. You know, if someone else wants to write about Lyndon Johnson, of course many people do, they're writing about him now, that's fine. But I don't, you know, there are other, like Manchester's biography of Churchill is finished by somebody else. But people who read that book say, oh, this isn't William Manchester's writing.
If you had to encapsulate the one lesson that Johnson teaches about power,
Yes.
what would you say?
You'd better bring the public along with you, because like on Vietnam, if you try to do something and conceal it from the public, the first place they're going to find out about it. If you haven't brought them along, in the end you're going to fail.
Robert Caro, lovely to talk to you.
Well, thank you.